Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi, Maseches CHULLIN Daf Vav. We begin 4 lines off the top of the Amid, and we're continuing our discussion of yesterday, where we learned that in the later generations, actually Rabbi Gamliel and his Bezdin, they were the one who enacted a ban, a blanket ban on the kutim. You can no longer partake in their shchita, in their meat, nor drink their wine. They were considered like goyim to a certain extent. So what happened? What triggered that change of approach to the kutim? What event triggered that shift? Says the Gemara on the 4th line of my taima Gozru Buhu Rabbanan. So why did the Rabbanan in fact decree against the kutim kiha as per the following story? The Reb Shimon ben Elazar, he was sent by Rabbi Meir. Shadrei, who sent him? Rabbi Meir. Lasui Chamra, to purchase wine. At that time, it was still permissible. It was pre-decree. Mi beikutoy, from amongst the kutim. Okay, so he approaches the area and he encounters an interesting person. Ashkechayahu Saba, this elderly man, which some say was Eliyahu Hanavi, encounters him en route. Amar lei, and he sends him a message. He says, be careful, where are you going? V'samta sakin b'loy acha. You should hide the knife in your cheek. You should withhold. Bal nefesh ata, if in fact you're in control of your spirit, of your desires. Exercise restraint and don't proceed. Don't purchase wine from these merchants. Okay, so he sent him a message, a hint, that you should not be relying on them. So he came back to his sender, returned to sender. Halach Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar v'sipet dvar encounter. He related this encounter, this incident, back to Lifnei Reb Meir, and he took it seriously. V'gazar aleim, and he established this gzeira and forbade purchasing wine from the kutim. So he took it seriously, and in fact, we'll see in a minute, he investigated the matter and discovered that in fact it was good reason to be concerned. My time, what was the reason for this? Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Demus Yaina. Motzelahan, they discovered a form of a dove, which they worshipped as an idol. Beroish Har Gerizim, the top of Har Gerizim, which is near Shechem. Shahayu Oidun Oisa, they were worshipping it. V'ramelu Tamei. Now, although perhaps this was just one group of kutim, no, Reb Meir is consistent with his opinion, with his shita. The Chayish L'Miyuta, he's always concerned about a small percentage as well, even though it's just a minority. V'gaza ruba tu miyuta, and he banned, he forbade the rest, the majority, on account of the minority. Since we don't know, perhaps the people that you're purchasing from, they're also idol worshippers, even though it was only a small percentage to begin with, but he enacted a blanket ban on them all. Rabbi Gamliel, ubeistinai, nami Reb Meir sirlu, and likewise, Reb Meir and his Bezdin went on this, followed this approach, this track, like Reb Meir. So even though they were in later generations, what it means to say is that Reb Meir at this point only forbade their wine. But they took it a step further, and they said even the shchita, meat of a kusi, is asur. They held that a mumar laved zara, a person who's deviant with respect to idol worship, is suspect of everything, and he's not to be trusted, even on matters of da'iraisa, like shchita, like nevel. In any case, there was sort of an evolved. It started with a small, more pointed, localized issue with wine, and then it spread and it was applied to all areas as well. And again, it's based on this idea that Rocheshish L'mi'uto, concerned about even a miut that are deviating, and that infects the entire class of people. Now, Pashte the Krab Maiksiv, the Saba, he quoted a pasuk in Mishlei, right? V'samta sakam b'lei acha imbal nefesh ata, which was a hidden message regarding refraining from their materials. But what's the simple meaning, the plain meaning of the pasuk? What's the lesson there? Pashti the Krab Maiksiv. Answer: B'talmud hayoshev v'nei rabbi, a student sitting before his teacher. As per Rav Chia's presentation as well, this is based on another pasuk in Mishlei, which is the pasuk prior. Kiseishe lilchaim es Moshel, when you'll sit down to have bread, to partake in bread, to learn Torah from the teacher. Bin Tavin, pay close attention, be cognizant, be aware, be sensitive to what's going on around you. Don't be aggressive to the point that you'll insult your teacher with all kinds of challenging questions which he may not know the answer to. Bin Tavin, at times you have to restrain yourself, hold back your questions. Im bal nefesh ata, if you're a man of spirit, you're a man of sensitivities. If a Talmud understands that his Rebbe has the knowledge, okay, he's proficient in the topic at hand, and he can answer him properly, then bin, notion of bina, delve further into the matter, ask, discuss, but otherwise, if you know that it's not so, you're just going to put him on the spot, embarrass him. Tavin, pay close attention to what's going on before you, and cut it right there. V'samto sakin b'le'acha, keep the knife inside you, the sharpness, right? Keep it restrained, keep it. Im bal nefesh at. Now, im bal nefesh hata. Now, let's say you can't resist because you're so driven to understand and to clarify, so you can't live this type of life. Pray shemenu. Okay, so move away. Find yourself a new rabbi. So the pasuk is advising us to exercise sensitivity, even with respect to learning, even with respect to interacting with a Rebbe. Okay, back to the Kutim. Rabbi Yitzchak ben Yosef, he was sent to purchase wine. Shadrei, who sent him? Rabbi Avola, so Yechama, to purchase wine. Maybe a Kutoi from the Kutim. Ashka was Saba. Once again, he bumps into the Saba. Amar Le, he tells him, Les kan Shemrei Torah. You're in the wrong place. This is not where the Shemrei Torah, the adherence to Torah lifestyle, are residing. It's not where you should be buying. Find yourself a better supplier. Halach Rabbi Yitzchak, he came back to his receipt at Dvarim. He related the story of Rabbi Avo, and this was passed on. Halach Rabbi Avo, he went to Besipah Dvarim, he related the story of Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Asi, and they took it very seriously and they investigated the matter. Because also they didn't leave. They relabeled them as goyim for everything. Lamai, with respect to what? Pertaining to what? Ilo shchita, regarding their shchita that cannot be relied upon. V'yainesach, drinking their wines. Minhasam gozru burabaran. This is old news. These are Amoraim, and those gzeros were established way back in the times of the Tanoim. Says the Gemara, Inu gozru v'lekibu b'nayu. He went through several steps. Initially, they enacted a gzera, but it wasn't really received by the community. It wasn't accepted. It wasn't established. Rashi says it was difficult. They were living amongst the Kutim. They were interacting with them. It was difficult for them to just detach and disengage. So it didn't really go over well. It wasn't a successful attempt. Also, Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Asi, Gozru, when they came along later on, when the communities had already sort of separated, when they made a Gzer Gozru, they were makabel and it worked. So Rashi stresses, Rashi emphasizes, it's not to say they were greater. No. It's just that the circumstances, the conditions were right. And the Gzera took effect. So we learned that they turned them into Oivdei Kechavim Gemurim, complete. What does complete Goyim mean with respect to what? My Oivdei Kechavim Gemurim, Amar Nachman Yitzchak, regarding another matter as well. On Shabbos, we know that when we live together in the same yard, we have to join together, all the neighbors, with Eruvei Chatzeros. So we join together in one loaf of bread, right? And we're all sort of one happy family, one residency, which allows us to carry throughout this enclosed area, despite the presence of multiple families, multiple households. Now, let's say a fellow neglected he failed to contribute to the Erev. There is another backup system called Bittul. You can just nullify, you can relinquish your Shabbos usage rights, so to speak, to your property, in which case it now becomes enveloped into the broader mix of properties, and it becomes part of the Erev Chatzeros, and you're not, we don't reckon with your private ownership, and you don't interfere with the system. But that's an option only available to a Yisrael. But a guy who lives amongst you in the same yard, you can't do that. You have to actually be soicher, you have to rent. To approach him with a dollar bill and say, listen, I want to rent rights to your properties and make it part of our... So a kut, interesting, talking about schiros of a guy. I recall when we were that summer in Moscow, so we were running this kiruv camp, and it was in this resort, so to speak, KGB, a former KGB resort, pretty interesting in this little town there. So came Shabbos, we put up strings, right? The tourists had Pesach and Erev, but there was one issue. There were goyim living there. They were like, caretakers and whatever. So I approached the nachalnik. Nachalnik in Russian is a general. They still call them general, like good old days. He was the general of the property, the general. So I didn't know Russian. I had an interpreter, a Jewish interpreter. Came into him on Friday. Says, "Listen, we have to, for religious purpose, we have to rent. We want to rent the rights to the area." He's like, "What do you mean rent? You already rented the area. It's all yours. It's yours for the summer." I said, "No, I got to rent it. Rights to usage and of all the areas within this enclosure." He's like, "I don't know what you mean. Take it. It's all yours. Do whatever you want." He took the dollar bill, and that was chiros rishus. A kuti is regarded like a guy in this matter. He can't do bittul, which is the easy system. You have to do schiras, which makes it inconvenient. The whole purpose behind that was to make it unlikely that a yid will live with a guy, because it makes it burdensome, etc. As we discussed back in Maseches Erevin, if you remember. Coming up soon again, B'ez Hashem. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, levatal rishus, v'litin rishus. So the fact that they consider the kutim as goyim gemurim eliminated this option of bittul, of giving away, of just nullifying relinquishing their rights. You have to actually be soicher, because the son is having a brisa. A Yisrael mumar, a renegade Jew, a deviating Jew. So what status does he have? It depends to what extent. Mishama Shabbatai b'shuk, if he observes Shabbos out in the street in public, so then he's still somewhat in the fold and has the same ability like any other yid regarding bittul, mevatel rishus, v'eisen rishus. But if he does not observe Shabbos even in public, so he's a blatant violator of Shabbos, that disqualifies him for everything. Mevatel rishus, v'eisen rishus. As we say, Yisrael, a bona fide Yisrael, he has the bittul option. V'eisen rishus and vatel, can give it away and it becomes nullified. But you have to rent it. How do you rent it? Sorry, how do you do bittul? Okay, it's amaloi. If a fellow forgets to contribute to the erev chatzeros, so he turns to the others and he says, "Rishusi knuyelach, I'm giving it away. It's yours. Rishusi mevutelas lacha." Right? I'm transferring it. I'm nullifying it to you. Kana. So the recipients have now acquired the rights. They don't need to make a special kinyan. As long as it's verbally stated, that's enough. So that applies to a yid, Yisrael mumar, that's somewhat still in the fold, but not a kuti. Continues the Gemara with another story about purchasing in a problematic setting. Rabbi Zera, Ravasi, Iklu Lepundaka, they encountered this guest house, the town of Yai, which was populated by unlearned people, Amei Haaretz, Jews but not learned people, in which case we know that when you purchase produce from an Am Haaretz, you have to be concerned perhaps that it wasn't tithed, perhaps it's still requires removal, separation of the Truma and the Master. And the halacha is that this material, which is called demai stands for this, mai, what status does it have? It's an unknown situation. Chachamim require us to take off meiser just in case. Okay? So they came to this place and they were served some sort of egg salad with wine mixed into it. And the wine, which is organic, right, material, right, needs to be meiser. They served them with these dried eggs mixed with wine, some sort of egg salad. Rabbi Zera he didn't want to eat. Rav Asi did eat. Amali Rav Zera, Rav Asi, why are you eating? Not concerned about demai mixed into this food. Amalei says, I told you I wasn't paying attention. It was mixed in, he didn't notice. Rav Zera. So Rav Zera responded, sort of. He says, how could it be that it's really usher and my colleague, slipped into it? Efshar gozru al tarivus demai. Is it possible that Chachamim forbade even a mix of demai? Right, this is a chiddush. Even if it's mixed in, it's not intact. You see, let's realize something. The Gemara says that demai is not really a biblical concern because most likely the Amei Oretz address their master obligations. Roiv, in fact, the majority would do it. So it's just a minority. It's a common minority. Chacham not want to just let it slip through. So they were concerned about it and they required us to do meiser. But if it's mixed in, it's not intact, it's not visible. Perhaps to that extent, the Gzera does not apply. So Rabbi says, look, is it possible, he exclaimed, is it possible that in fact even a Tairavist demai would be a problem and my colleague would have eaten it? Hashem would have allowed him, so to speak, to eat it? And it so happens that Rabbi Asi that he would eat it Isser? Unlikely. Even an animal belonging to a tzaddik. Coming up in tomorrow's daf, or Pinchas ben Yair's donkey. Maybe Hashem would not allow even an animal of a tzaddik to transgress, to consume forbidden materials. Certainly the tzaddik himself, of course, is protected. Tzaddikim atzma lekoshke. So there must be a reason why he ate it. It must really be okay. Nafax, he went out to Rabbi Zera, Duk v'ashach, he went and investigated the matter. This not, he found a Mishnah, Brisa. A person purchases wine from the Amaris to inject into sort of a fish mix, a fish juice mix, or some sort of other drink, or he buys karshinen, beans, lasmen, techinen, to turn them into some sort of dish, adashim, beans, again to make it into some sort of mix, lasmen, resisen, chayv mishum demai. So, upon purchasing these ingredients, he has to address the demai issue before mixing them into the mix. Certainly, if he knows that it's tevel, that it's untied, of course. But if he goes and he purchases, right, this type of dish, a finished, ready-made product from a takeout store, which he knows has some problematic ingredients, has demai mixed into it, it's okay. Because it's a mix of demai. Yeah. So you see from here that when demai is merely mixed in to a dish, since it's not intact, it's not standing alone, it's okay. And that explains why Rav Asi, in fact, partook in that egg salad. Asked the Gemara, really not? Vatanya, we have a brisa which seems to indicate that we're concerned even about a demai mix. Vatanya, so he turns to his neighbor who has a working oven. He says, let me give you some ingredients. I'm going to give you a dough with sa'ar. Sa'ar is a sourdough. You'll take it, you'll make it rise, you'll bake it from ukadera lavashla. It gives her a pot with some ingredients, with the seasoning separately. He says, you'll season it, you'll cook it. Upon receiving the product in return, back, he doesn't have to worry that perhaps she swapped she gave her own sa'ar, her own tavlin, her own seasonings. Not concerned about shvius material, meiser or maser issues. Because why would she use her own? But if he tells her, he gives her the base ingredients and says, you know what? You'll use your own seasoning, you use your own sa'ar, then there's a concern. Then he's concerned about meiser and shvius issues regarding the added ingredients that she contributed. And the question is, so what? But it's mixed in already. It's not intact, so what's the problem? No, Shani Hosam, it's different there. The Kivan du Ka'amrla, Asili Mishalechi, because since he requested that she contribute her own ingredients, it's like he's like involved in mixing it up. You can't do that. You can't actually mix the mai. It's after the fact, finished product, okay, but here he's asking her, Command the Arab Yadayim Dam. It's like he's doing it himself, mixing it into the mix. Rav from Amar, he gives another reason why it's a problem, why it's different. Shami su'or v'tavlim. No, su'or is very different. Seasoning is very different than a regular ingredient. They're critical to the success of the dish. Right? So, irrespective of their smallness and volume, but since they're critical, the su'or is what makes the dough rise, the tavlim is what makes the flavor. Right? The latama of it, the tama libata, that can't be nullified. Because it's still there, it's still discernible, despite its negligible, amount. Back to the question, really? We're not so we're done with this discussion. We established the halacha that tareves mai is okay, provided you don't mix it or facilitate its mixing. But then we actually, sort of by the way, refer to another point. We're not concerned that she would have swapped ingredients, unless you ask her, but otherwise, we're sort of going to pick up on that point. We're going to ask on that. Really, we're not concerned that the Amoritz would swap materials. But Tanan, if a Mishnah person hands over some, a dough to his mother-in-law for her to bake for him, you never know. She may have swapped it along the way. So you have to maser what you give her, so that she doesn't eat something forbidden, and likewise what you pick up from her, because perhaps it's new material which was never maser. Maser eshu noisin ve'es, and also shu noitel mimena. Why? Because she's suspected of machlefes, or shemachlefes, hamiskalkal. And she may have swapped it if she sees that it's not, of highest quality, right? Let's say it burnt in the oven, so she'll find you new material. Apparently we're concerned that she might swap. Well, yeah, Hasam, Kadesanya, that's explained in that Mishnah itself. Kitani time, Rabbi Yehuda explains, Rabbi Yehuda, this is an exceptional case as a mother-in-law. She takes the liberty of swapping for your benefit. Rabbi Yehuda, right, she's looking out for the wealth, for the benefit of her daughter, she's embarrassed of her son-in-law, she burnt the bread, so she'll swap it for you. But typically a stranger who has no such interests will not dare swap your material without permission. We turn to Amid Beis. But typically there's no concern about Snan. Once again, nice in the Pundakas. He's on the road. And, this is like his hostess, and, he's learning yeshiva, and he stays in this place. And, again, so if he's giving her the material for processing, so he's handing over to his Pundakas, his hostess, Ma'aser, Ashu Noisan Law. So he got to do Ma'aser from what he gives and what he picks up. He's concerned about her flipping and swapping. Apparently, that concern is prevalent even in a regular circumstance. The answer is, there as well, says the Gemara, there's a good reason for it. It's like Mur Heter. She comes up with an excuse. Right? She excuses herself. For his good. V'amr, she says, Bar Beirav, the young yeshiva man, Leichel Chamima. I'd rather he eats the warm, fresh bread. Let me give him my fresh bread. I'll keep his old, cold. I'll eat the cold one, meaning I'll swap the unfresh for the fresh. And again, this only applies in this type of circumstance where he's a steady customer, right? She's his hostess, and he's there all the time, so there she feels responsible for him. But just a total stranger, there we don't suspect any unauthorized swappings. And really, we're not concerned that she'll swap, that she'll steal. Tanya, you have another story. Eisha's chaver, a wife of a Talmud Chacham, of a reliable, trusted person, Teichenes, she can grind together, she can help out her friend, Eisha's Amaretz, the wife of Amaretz, whose material is presumed to be problematic, Dmai. So the Eisha's chaver should not be eating that. How can we allow it to be involved? When the Eisha's chaver is in a state of tumah, which will discourage her from touching the material lest she makes it tummy, so she'll keep away, so she won't eat. But not when she's in a state of tahara. They were concerned that perhaps she'll reach in and take a sample. and eat the dmai. So when she's tummy, she won't touch. When she's tired, she won't hesitate to touch. She might take a sample. Reb Shimon Omer, no, even when she's tummy, she might be fed by the neighbor whose husband owns this material. Even when the Isha's chaver is in a state of tumma, she should not be participating in the grinding of the Amaret's material, because her friend, the wife of the Amaretz, who is not halachically the owner of the material, her husband is, she'll offer some food to eat. We see the Isha Amaretz doesn't have that to steal. Doesn't have any qualms about taking her husband's material and giving it to her neighbor. Of course, it goes without saying that she'll swap. So we see that people are concerned about Amaretz swapping things. Rabbi Yosef, once again, there's a cover there. There's an excuse. Hasam Nami Maria. There as well, the woman, she feels justified. V'amr, she says, look, we know there's a halacha lo yisach so mishar b'dishay, right? You don't muzzle an ox while he's threshing, right? So she figures, okay, it applies to human workers as well. She's helping me grind. She deserves a little snack. Maria v'amr, she says, Torah, a shoyer midishay kachal eats from his material that he threshes. So again, there's an excuse. It's an exceptional case, but typically we're not concerned about swapping. Okay, so earlier we spoke about Hashem, protecting, granting special shmira for a tzaddik, lest he come to consuming something forbidden. So on that topic, we have a story, Hayid. So he testified. Who testified? Rabbi Yeshua ben Zerid, who was Ben, the son of Chamiv, of the father-in-law of Rabbi Meir. So he testified that Rabbi Meir did something, and he testified this in front of Rabbi. Al Rabbi Meir, regarding Rabbi Meir, Sha'achal, he didn't hesitate to consume an olah shal yarak, some greenery, right, some vegetable, Veishan, a green leaf, a vegetable material, in the place called Beis Sha'an, which is presumed to be part of Eretz Yisrael, without taking off Meiser. Hit Rebbe as Beis Sha'an Kula, based on this fact, based on this story, based on this testimony, Rebbe now went and permitted produce grown in the Beis Sha'an district, and assumed that to be outside Eretz Yisrael without need for Meiser. Al Yada, based on this story. When Rebbe did this, he encountered a maelstrom. Chavru olav echav, so his whole family, his brother, his whole family, they converged on him. How did you do that? How did you change that style? What right? We have a place where all throughout the generations, your parents, your grandpa, considered it forbidden, considered it part of Eretz Yisrael, which requires Meiser, and you're going to go and just revolutionize things. To consider it mutter. What right do we have to do that? Dorish Lance, he responded as follows. There was a precedent. Mikra, look at this pasuk. So Chizkiyahu, the king later on, Melech Yehuda, destroyed. He ground up the copper snake symbol that they made in the Midbar. When they were attacked by snakes, they would view it and that would heal them. And eventually it turned into a pitfall. They used it as a avodah zarah. They believed in, in its supernatural powers, right? So in order to preempt that, he destroyed it. He did away with it. He banished it. Vekitas, nachasha, nacheshes, asher osam Moshe. Why? Because until those days, they would sacrifice to it. They call it nechushtan. Now, why was he the first one to realize that? Efshar ba'asav le'biaroi asa. Earlier king, who destroyed all the avodah zarahs, didn't bother doing it on this. Uba Yeshafet as well was involved in cleaning up the avodah zarah. He didn't do this. How could that be? We know that they cleaned out all the avodah zarahs. So why did they not do this one? Apparently, they didn't consider a concern. So how do you do that? Or do you have to interfere with communal matters? We shift to Zayin and Aleph. Ella, rather, what's the answer? Hashem, he gave him the opportunity, which he didn't give the previous generations, right? Hashem granted him the merit. So his ancestors left him over some work to do. to make him great, so to speak, to establish himself. Left him some room to contribute to Klal Yisrael's development. Hashem orchestrated that so that he gains notoriety, that he asserts his status as a leader. Likewise, over here says Rebbe, Afani, in my case as well, it's true. It could have been done by the earlier generations. They could have arrived at this clarity, but Hashem arranged that I should be the one doing it. It's my part, it's my contribution. Based on this concept, based on this story, we learn from here, Talmud Chacham. So we have a Talmud Chacham based Medrash who's now promoting all kinds of new ideas, which haven't been heard before. Sha'amar Dvar Halacha here, he says, oh, a new halacha. We don't disregard it. We don't disrespect him. We don't accuse him of trying to gain unjustified notoriety. We don't view it as an act of haughtiness. That's the way Torah works. Hashem gives every person his chelik, his portion in Torah, which is meant to be discovered and developed at the appropriate time, as preordained by Hashem. We don't separate him from what he's saying. We don't dismiss him. We don't accuse him of haughtiness. The one that used the mazichin term, as per the pasuk, ensure that the choshen doesn't separate from the aphite. So you don't separate him from what he's saying. Meaning, we don't pressure him to retract, right? The one that used the word maznichin, as we find, Hashem won't abandon us. Which denotes haughtiness, we find when those of haughty hearts became more numerous, that triggered an increase in disagreements and machlokes in Israel, because only those with proper humility will take the time and the effort to properly understand, to properly pay attention to the teachers and internalize things properly with clarity. Otherwise, there's clarity, confusion, which generates machlokes. Okay, in any case, so it happens that in the earlier generations they did not have this clarity, and it was only discovered later on by will of Hashem. In summation, we have the ban that was applied to the tzdukim, to the kutim, due to the avodah zarah that was discovered on their property. They were considered Ovid Kechav and Gemurim with respect to the inability to do bittul. In terms of the erech hateres, we learned about tareves d'mai, which is mutter. Typically, we're not concerned about the amaras flipping, produce, except under special circumstances, like the mother-in-law, like the hostess, or when she views it to be justified due to the work involved on account of the Eshes Chaver. And then we have the story of a Beis Sha'an, which Rebbe decreed it to be considered outside Eretz Yisrael proper, without need to do Trumas and Maasros. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha Rabbah.